Have you ever cancelled plans at the last minute, felt that wave of relief wash over you, and then immediately wondered, what's wrong with me? Maybe your friends were excited. Maybe the group chat was buzzing. Maybe everyone else seems to recharge by being around people. And there you are, sitting on your bed, staring at your phone, thinking, I would honestly rather stay home, alone. For a long time, society has sold us a very specific story. If you prefer being alone, you must be lonely. If you turn down invitations, you must be antisocial. If you enjoy your own company a little too much, something must be off. But what if that story is incomplete? What if your preference for solitude isn't a flaw, but a clue? Let me show you what's really happening inside the mind of someone who genuinely prefers being alone. Picture this. It's Friday night. One person is energized by the idea of a crowded restaurant, overlapping conversations, background music, spontaneous laughter. Another person imagines the same scene and feels their brain tighten slightly, like a computer with too many tabs open. Neither person is broken. They just have different nervous systems. Psychologists have long studied something called arousal levels. According to research inspired by Hans Eysenk's theory of introversion and extroversion, some brains are naturally more sensitive to stimulation. Think of it like volume settings. If your internal volume is already turned up high, loud environments, constant conversation, and social unpredictability can feel overwhelming much faster. So when someone who prefers being alone chooses a quiet evening, it's not avoidance, it's regulation. Your brain is simply managing its energy. And that's the first misconception we need to dismantle. Preferring solitude is not the same as lacking social skills. In fact, many people who choose solitude are highly socially aware. They can read a room. They notice subtle tone shifts. They pick up on micro-expressions. They just don't want to do that all the time. Because that kind of awareness is expensive. Imagine walking into a room and automatically sensing who feels insecure, who's trying too hard, who's uncomfortable, who's competing. Some people don't just hear words, they absorb emotional undercurrents. Over time, that creates cognitive fatigue. So what looks like withdrawal from the outside can actually be conservation. There's also something deeper going on. Solitude offers something social environments often don't: coherence. When you're alone, your thoughts line up. Your internal narrative becomes audible. You can follow a question all the way down instead of abandoning it mid-thought because someone interrupted you. Have you ever noticed how ideas feel clearer when you're by yourself? That's not random. Neuroscientists talk about the default mode network, a system in the brain that becomes active when we're not focused on external tasks. It lights up during reflection, memory integration, self-understanding. Solitude gives that network space to operate. In other words, alone time isn't empty time. It's processing time. For many people who prefer being alone, social interaction feels like input. Solitude feels like integration. And integration is powerful. Think about artists, philosophers, inventors. Virginia Woolf once wrote about needing a room of one's own, not because she hated people, but because uninterrupted space allowed her mind to stretch. Even culturally, solitude has often been misunderstood. Monks retreat, writers isolate, scientists disappear into labs, yet we romanticize their output while questioning their isolation. Why? Because we confuse visibility with value. People who prefer being alone often develop a rich internal world. They replay conversations not out of anxiety, but curiosity. They observe patterns in behavior. They analyze motivations. They build intricate thought maps that never make it into small talk. And here's something fascinating. Research on highly sensitive individuals suggests that deeper processing of information correlates with a greater need for downtime. When your brain processes experiences more thoroughly, it simply needs more recovery space. It's like running high-resolution software on a small battery. You need to recharge. But let's be honest, preferring solitude isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it's complicated. Sometimes you wonder if you're missing out. Sometimes you question whether you're hiding. Sometimes you scroll through social media and feel a tiny pang when you see everyone else together. This is where we need nuance. There is healthy solitude and there is protective isolation. Healthy solitude feels like nourishment. Protective isolation feels like armor. The difference often lies in motivation. Are you alone because you enjoy your own company? Or because you fear judgment? Are you choosing quiet or avoiding vulnerability? That's not a criticism. It's a gentle inquiry. For some people, solitude became comfortable because at some point it was safer. Maybe they were misunderstood as kids. Maybe they were told they were too much or too quiet. Maybe being alone meant fewer chances to be criticized. Over time, the brain learns patterns. If social experiences equaled stress, your nervous system may equate solitude with safety. But even that isn't weakness. It's adaptation. Your brain is constantly asking one question: am I safe? If being alone lowers your stress response, your body will lean toward it. Still, preferring solitude doesn't mean you don't need connection. Humans are wired for attachment. The key difference is quality over quantity. People who prefer being alone often don't want 10 acquaintances. They want one conversation that feels real. They don't crave constant updates. They crave depth, and depth takes energy. That's why small talk can feel exhausting. It's like chewing gum for the brain. Lots of motion, little substance. But put that same person in a quiet room with someone willing to explore ideas, values, fears. Watch them come alive. Another overlooked trait: autonomy. Many solitude-preferring individuals score high in self-sufficiency. They enjoy making decisions independently. They don't need constant external validation. They are comfortable entertaining themselves. That's not isolation. That's internal stability. In a world built around noise, notifications, opinions, expectations, choosing quiet can be an act of clarity. It allows you to hear your own voice before it gets diluted. But let me ask you something. When you imagine your ideal day, is it crowded or calm? Is it filled with constant conversation or pockets of uninterrupted thought? There's no correct answer, only alignment. The danger comes when you judge yourself for your natural rhythm, when you try to force extroversion because you think it's more admirable, when you attend events not because you want to, but because you're afraid of being labeled antisocial. That internal friction is what drains you. Instead, imagine designing your life around energy, not expectation, scheduling social time intentionally, protecting recovery periods without guilt, viewing solitude not as a defect but as a resource, because it is. Solitude fosters creativity. It sharpens self-awareness. It strengthens emotional independence. It allows you to differentiate between what you actually think and what you've absorbed from others. And ironically, people who are comfortable alone often form healthier relationships. Why? Because they're not seeking connection out of desperation. They're choosing it. They don't need someone to fill silence. They're inviting someone into a space that's already complete. There's something quietly powerful about that. So if you prefer being alone, maybe your brain isn't avoiding the world. Maybe it's curating it. Maybe you're not antisocial. Maybe you're selective. Maybe you're not distant. Maybe you're deep. And maybe the real shift isn't about changing your preference but understanding it. Ask yourself, when I'm alone, do I feel smaller or clearer? Do I feel isolated or centered? Your answer matters. In a culture that celebrates constant visibility, choosing solitude can feel rebellious. But sometimes the most intelligent thing you can do for your nervous system, your creativity, and your identity is step back, not to disappear, but to return to yourself. And if this resonates with you, if you've ever felt misunderstood for enjoying your own company, I'd love to hear what solitude means to you. Is it peace? Is it clarity? Is it protection? Let's talk about it. And if you're curious about how your personality shapes your habits in ways you've never considered, stay with this channel. There's a lot more beneath the surface of who you are. Because sometimes the quietest minds are the most intricate ones.